What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the latest episode of the Bleav in Oregon podcast. I'm Zachary, Neel, my co-host over there, Jonathan Stewart. Jay Stu, what's up, man? How you doing?
Just out here keeping it copacetic. You know
Copacetic.
what that
Okay.
means?
Please indulge me.
Man, to my knowledge, it just means I'm keeping it real nice and easy and cool and breezy.
That sounds good to me. You convinced me. It feels like we were just talking before the podcast. Feels like forever since we've talked because we went off our normal scheduling last week and didn't do our Big Ten show and tell. So it's been a little bit since it was just you and I. How's the weekend for you?
Weekend was good. Took the girls to a place called Super G, which is an Asian supermarket.
Okay.
And they have a food hall of different types of Asian experiences, which is really nice. I love Korean food. I love Asian food. I just love it.
Nice.
And so I was able to get back to my roots. And when I say roots,
Your roots.
I'm talking
Your
about
Asian roots.
Well, not to that specific, but to my roots in the sense of I grew up with a best friend that was Korean. I had several friends that were Korean growing up, and my mom would cook soul food, and I would go to their houses, and they would cook their version of soul food, which is Korean food, Korean barbecue. I mean, you name it. It was a treat, and so it was nice to just kind of be able to find that here in the Carolinas finally.
That's
so
great.
That way I can expose my children to good food.
There you go.
And culture.
I had a long weekend. I went camping with some friends. Was camping for like 4 nights. Just got back yesterday. It was hot. It was dirty. It was dusty. It was a lot of fun though. So
I have a friend that was in Eugene yesterday and the day before. He went to the baseball game, and he said that there was a wrestling event after the Eugene
the Emeralds.
Yeah, the Eugene Emeralds played, and they had a wrestling match right afterwards. Do you ever go to those?
No, I mean I've maybe like once a summer, just to go watch some baseball. But man, minor league baseball, they always have something going on to get fans involved. That's wild.
What do they call the Mexican wrestling?
The Lucha Cabras or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, but yeah, you should go check it out, man. If they have that out, man, go read it in the paper.
Fun. That sounds fun. All right, we got part 2 of our Big Ten show and tell today. We're gonna go through the previews for teams that the Oregon Ducks fans need to know about coming up. But we've got a couple of quick things to talk about first, though. It feels like things are really starting to ramp up towards fall season. College football is in the air, and the new College Football 25 video game was released yesterday. Did you have a chance to get it yet or play it? Do you have any plans to do that this week?
Man, I don't have any plans to do it as of yet. I would love to, but you know what happens when you have kids and a life, and it's just not in the works right now, and I'm kind of sad about it.
Learned that.
I'm seeing all the memes and all the people that are talking about, oh, I'm going to take off a month of work to play some
Sounds nice.
football. Sounds amazing.
Yeah.
The grind doesn't stop, and someone's got to do it. And right now it's not me.
Well, what was super frustrating for me is back in 2020 during the pandemic, because I've been growing up, I played video games, and then we're all locked at home. So I was like, I'm gonna go buy an Xbox. So I bought an Xbox One, was playing games with friends and stuff. Hadn't touched it since 2020. So it had been, it's 4 years. Yesterday I get home from camp and I'm like, all right, let me get this video game. Let's see what it's all about. Apparently my 4-year-old Xbox is way out of date and doesn't even support the game. So I had to go buy a new system, and luckily I think I'm going to try and write it off on my taxes because it's college football. We'll see if this works. See what my accountant says. But no, I got the game last night, played a little bit. We're doing this thing on Ducks Wire where we're simulating every game for Oregon season and just seeing what EA Sports thinks is going to happen. So that's been pretty fun. I've got a simulation of Oregon versus Oregon State going on in the background, and
who's winning?
Oregon is up 42-0 with a minute left in the second quarter.
Against who?
Against Oregon State.
Of course.
Yeah. So
That makes a
that's
lot of
fun to watch
sense.
in the background.
Yeah, Oregon
But
State's
no,
they're gonna have a depressing season next year, I feel
yeah.
like.
But so if you get this game, what's your first game mode? You going Dynasty? You going Road to Glory, where you get to play with your high school player and take him through college? Are you an online player? What do you think you would do with it?
I am going to just be a straight out online player.
Really?
Um,
Okay.
yeah, just I never really did the whole dynasty thing.
Mhm.
I mean, I did it when like pre-college, I did it more often than none, but
Well,
once I
you
got to
lived it.
college, oh yeah, it was kind of that feeling of like, oh, I'm already in the game.
Yeah, I don't need to do this.
EA
I'm already
Sports,
trying to
I'm
make the
already in the
decision in real
game.
life.
Uh, and then I got to NFL, and then it was kind of the same, thought process of EA Sports. I'm already in the game, and so my whole ordeal is like competition. And so my thought process is get on there and see where I stand. You know, I'll take a couple of exhibition games against,
Uh-huh.
the all Madden, the all pro
Knock the
speed,
rust off.
and so knock the rust off, get waxed around, figure my controls out. Uh, but once I feel ready, I'm taking my talents to online, baby.
That's super interesting. I didn't even think about the fact that, like, yeah, why would you want to play Road to Glory and try and
No,
take
I
this high schooler to be a Heisman? It's like, yeah, you actually did that in real life.
No, but it's a cool feature though. Like I've done
Yeah,
it before, but I'm
but
not
it's
gonna
cool
just get
for
on.
us. It's cool
Yeah.
for us regulars to live that life and see what we could do.
Yeah, yeah. And I think
If I were
it's
you, I wouldn't do it either.
I mean, I'm gonna try it, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
But I think my first initial jump
yeah,
is just gonna get there, get the controllers down because I want to be good at it. I'm not
yeah,
messing
for
around with
sure.
no other features besides, hey, I want to know what it's gonna feel like to, hit that deep pass. I want to
Yeah.
know what it's gonna feel like to, change plays and go no huddle and call an audible all of a sudden, um, get those types of things.
Well, when you get it fired up, you gotta let me know. We'll see if we can get some of these online games going.
Yeah, we might need to have a little online battle, a
Ooh.
weekly match.
That'd be fun. We just do away with the podcast and just start streaming our we podcast while we're playing. There we go.
That might actually
That's
be
an
a
idea.
thing.
All right. I need to do
Stay
that one of
tuned.
these days. It was also announced yesterday on Monday that Oregon's second generation O uniforms are coming out later this week. They're being released on Thursday night. Joey Harrington was the athlete to help the unveiling this time. I actually talked to Joey yesterday about it, and he said that he was really bummed that a lot of the jokes that he wrote and that he
They didn't make
said did
it.
not get, yeah, they got cut. They got left on the cutting room floor. He's like, man, I thought I was being really funny, but none of my jokes made the cut. So,
It's okay,
um,
Joey, man. You're a great quarterback. That's all that
yeah,
matters.
it's all right. You're funny outside of the off the camera as well. So,
Yeah.
um, the most significant part of the jersey return, there is the return of the Oregon O on the helmet. I'm not sure that that means if this is like a complete throwback to those Joey Harrington era jerseys or what, but at least we know that the O is coming back on the helmet. Do you have any thoughts on this?
On the helmet and then just the
Yeah, it's just
jerseys. Yeah,
the jerseys reveal. What do you want to see if it's going back to that era? You said that you wanted them to go back to that
that's one
era
of
because
my
that's when you
favorites,
grew
right?
up with it.
That's
Yeah.
yeah. So I want to definitely see that yellow streak on the side.
Mhm. Down the
That
sides.
yellow streak with the green, overlapping. I gotta see that. I
Mhm.
hope to see it in some
Yeah.
fashion, and I feel like we will. It might not be that pattern, but it will be that vibe. I
Well,
wouldn't
that
even
was
be mad about a checkered look,
yeah. Oh, checkered. What do you mean?
like a white, like the green, yellow checker marks,
Oh, okay.
like a flag.
That could be cool. Okay. Yeah, I
That's
like
my
that.
predict. That's my bold prediction.
Yeah, all right. We'll see what that well, it's comes out Thursday night, so yeah, I'm definitely excited to see what these ones look like.
Hmm.
Also another minor recruiting note, not really a minor note, it's actually a pretty major note, but there's a good chance that the Ducks have a huge couple of days ahead. Five-star safeties DJ Pickett and Trey McNutt are both scheduled to announce their commitments this week on Wednesday and Friday. Both of them are currently projected to pick the Ducks. Pickett is the number 6 player in the 2026 class. McNutt is the number 19 player in the class. This comes after 5-star wide receiver Jacorian Moore committed to Oregon on, I Bleav that was on July 4th, a couple weeks ago, and he's the number 4 player in the class. So we don't have to talk about it much. There's something to be aware of. I'm sure that we will talk about that more
What
next
position
week.
do they play, Zach?
Both of them safeties.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Defense just
I know,
piling
right?
up, baby.
And
Like
they
we've
just
never
got a
seen that.
5-star
We've never
cornerback
seen this
like a
before,
couple
huh?
weeks ago. This is
We've never seen.
insane. Yeah.
We've never seen this before.
Yeah. This is pretty
We'll
insane.
definitely be a top 5 recruiting class this year.
Oh, yeah, I think they're 4th right now. There's like a chance they could get to number 2, maybe even number 1 if they get enough, but they might just take a smaller class from what I hear and just take around like 20 kids that are just elite. So,
That's the way to do it, though. Like,
yeah.
you
But if
think
you're
about
already
it,
built with the depth and you've recruited so well over the past years, you don't need 30 kids. Just get 20
and you
great kids that
make
can
it,
start.
and you make this image in everyone's head, like, oh, it's hard to get into Oregon.
True.
You know, it's
A
like that
little bit of
line when you.
prestige.
It's like when you go to a restaurant opening day. It's like, oh man, that line's too long.
Mhm.
I'll come back next week. You know what I'm
There you
saying?
go.
Hopefully they let me in then.
Yeah, there you go. All right, let's get to well, actually, before we get to our Big Ten preview, little simulation update. Oregon's up 49-0, start of the third
Wow.
quarter, and Dante Moore's in the game. Dylan Gabriel's out, so let's hope
I
this
have a
is a
prediction.
good
Oregon
preview.
State won't have a football team in 10 years.
Oh, that's yeah. I'm not gonna call you wrong, but man, that hurts.
Yeah. Make that a
Uh,
short clip for all the Beaver
yeah,
fans.
right. We'll clip that out on social, and the 12 Oregon State fans can yell at you for a little bit. All right, let's get into our show and tell. Once again, we both have, well, we don't both have 3 teams today. You have 2 teams today. I've got 3 teams to talk about, and we'll try and keep it relatively concise. J. Stu, why don't you go ahead and go first? Who did you bring to show and tell today?
I have UCLA for
Nice,
show and
UCLA.
tell. You know, they have a former Carolina Panther as their head coach going into this season. He's a familiar coach within that locker room, within that staff, Deshaun Foster. I'm excited for him. I'm excited for him to, establish his presence, establish the identity of, a player's coach on many levels, from the pro aspect of it and the collegiate aspect of it. He's, back home in his own stomping ground, so he's able to relate to these kids in a whole different demeanor. So it's exciting, for to see legends get opportunities to really lead programs and lead these men. So we'll see what he has. The biggest subtractions I found were Kyle Ford, wide receiver. Last year he had 7 touchdowns, 456 yards. He must have felt like he wasn't getting enough looks last year, and it was like, hey, quarterback situation looking a little
A
thin.
little dicey. A little dicey.
This is a year of transition for the UCLA Bruins, and I don't want to be a part of it. So he got out of there. Dante Moore, John Murphy, Kamari Ramsey. So yeah, but in my mind, them going into the Big Ten, you gotta have some type of explosion on offense, and they don't have any. And it's
Well,
gonna
not when
be
they lose. Not when they lose Chip Kelly too,
yeah,
one of the
yeah,
best offensive coaches.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I will say, on the flip side, some of the biggest additions, can't really pronounce his last name, but Miami transfer, Collins, something, Achimpong,
Oh yeah,
something like
Achiampong, something like that. Yeah, I don't
yeah,
even know how.
Achiapong. We're gonna call him that for
Sure.
now. Defensive end, Miami transfer, had 9 sacks last year. So defense, at least they will be able to, have a presence, there when it comes to getting after the quarterback. But the problem is, you're not going to really depend on getting sacks when you're not scoring any points on offense. No one's going to be really throwing the ball in those meaningful occasions where you're needing to get after the quarterback. So they're just in a complete revamp. And it stinks, but they also have an addition in Eric Bieniemy, offensive coordinator.
Good point.
And I think that is huge for Deshaun to have some success, to have guys buy in. You have a proven offensive coordinator at the NFL level, that would be able to, come in, look at this roster. Obviously, him saying yes to this coaching job, he sees some opportunity, and the opportunity I see is a guy like TJ Harden, 5.3 yards per carry. That's a guy that knows how to find holes, knows how to get loose, and all those types of things. And then,
Well,
you
back
know,
to before you get away from Bieniemy real quick, I just want to
yeah,
talk about him because he's super intriguing. I mean, the Deshaun Foster hire was great, but I feel like UCLA getting Bieniemy was similar to Ohio State getting Chip Kelly because that's
yeah,
just this offensive mind that has such a high upside. For fans who don't know who Eric Bieniemy is, he was the offensive coordinator for Patrick Mahomes and the
hmm,
Chiefs for several years under Andy Reid. He went to the Washington Commanders, I think last year, just for 1 year, was their OC, and then decided to take this job with UCLA. A lot of people have expected him to be a head coach at some point. I was surprised to see him drop down to the college level, but it could be really, really good for him because he could prove that, hey, I'm good enough to be a head coach. And if you're going to be a coordinator that gets a head coaching job, a lot of the times that's going to happen in college. So,
yeah.
yeah, with the talent they have, I don't know that they're going to be some explosive offense this year, but that definitely could be in their future because he's a great offensive mind. I can't wait to see what he does at this level.
Yeah, I can't wait either. And another returner, you have the quarterback there.
Mhm.
Um, Ethan Garbers. He was MVP in the bowl game last year. So he showed some promise, and yeah, I think Deshaun's got a shot of at least getting 5 wins next year.
Yeah, so what's
Um,
the bar? Are they a bowl team? Do you think they're getting there?
the,
What's
I
the
don't,
bar for success there?
I don't want to. I don't think you set the bar that high.
Okay.
This is a total
That's
this is a
sad.
total revamp. It's a total
Pretty much.
revamp, right? And you're going into the Big Ten. But they can shock the world. I mean, we don't really know what the
They could do it.
Indianas, and the teams of those likes are like in the Big
Yeah.
Ten going
The
against.
bottom of the Big Ten is pretty bad, so
Yeah. So they might sneak a couple wins out, but I think
okay.
5 wins is, they should be happy. They should
Yeah,
be
I
happy.
think they're kind of in that bar with, Indiana and some other teams we'll definitely talk about today. My first one we'll talk about with that, but this the I think a successful season is showing promise,
Yeah.
showing that you've got the right coach hired, you've got an offensive system under Eric Bieniemy, and just giving, they're not going to be good this year. I don't think any of their fans expect them to be good this year, but if they can leave this season with 4 or 5 wins and say, "Hey, we're at least going somewhere," I think that's success.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, my first show and tell is the Nebraska Cornhuskers. I'm going to start with departures. They didn't really lose that many players this past year because they have not been that great recently, so they didn't have they didn't have very many players to lose. More
Hmm.
importantly, they got a lot of really good additions. Mainly, they added five-star quarterback Dylan Raiola, who was one of the best passers in the nation this year. For a long time, he was considered the number one recruit in the nation. He got bumped down a little bit in the latest updates, but by all means, he seems to be like a freshman phenom that is going to be one of the best quarterbacks in the nation and arguably like a really high NFL draft pick. They also
Really?
added former Oregon running back Dante Dowdell, who, Oregon fans know very well. They were very high on him last year. He was not getting the looks at Oregon because they've got such a loaded backfield that he transferred to Nebraska. He looked really good in their spring game. They added Wake Forest wide receiver Jamal Banks, Texas wide receiver Isaiah Nayor. They really loaded up offensively. They put weapons around Dowdell, or around Rayola, and they looked like they could be a pretty solid team. The win
Hmm.
total is set at 7.5. They've got tough games against Ohio State, USC, Wisconsin, and Iowa. They don't play Oregon, Michigan, Washington, or Penn State, so they've got a very nice schedule. It feels like this is a year that they can absolutely be bowl eligible. That should be, their baseline. They should be making to a bowl game. But like we were just talking about with UCLA, I think what you really want to see is that promise. let Dylan Raiola show you that he is the quarterback that he can be one of the best players in the Big Ten a year or two down the road. The college football playoff is obviously unrealistic when you're playing a true freshman quarterback and you've got a lot new, but I think the same should be said about a conference title or being in that contention. But just kind of stick around in November and be in that conversation, be a 7-8 win team. I think you feel really good about this year if you're Nebraska.
That's good, man. Like,
Yeah,
I feel like, will Nebraska ever get back to their, you know, that
the
thing?
heyday. Yeah.
Yeah, the heyday. Maybe that's where the heyday came from, huh?
Maybe it is. I don't know. Good call. Yeah, Nebraska, maybe. I don't know. That's a really good question. It's been what, since the 90s,
Yeah.
that they were Nebraska of old.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, they've been trying. They had the whole Scott Frost era. That did not go as they planned. Matt Rule's been trying to turn it around, but I think that's what a lot of the buzz is around Dylan Raiola, is that they're kind of hoping. I mean, he was originally committed to Ohio State, flipped to Georgia, and then flipped to Nebraska.
Yeah.
So they're, he's a really, really good player. And the fact that he chose them, that's kind of why there's so much hype and excitement about this, because he seems like, the real deal. He looked really good in their spring game. So I can't wait to watch him play. I don't think they're going to be the Nebraska of old this year, but yeah, come in the next 2 years, 3 years, I think it's definitely a possibility.
Yeah. I'm very familiar with Matt Rule.
Oh, yeah, you are. I forgot about that. I didn't make that connection.
Yeah, the pro level. I think it's, someone should do like a study of college coaches. I mean, I'm pretty sure they have done it. We just need to probably find it. But I really do believe that certain coaches are made to be in college, and there's
definitely
there's no possible turnover as far as going from college level to pro, because I think you're just dealing with different kids. You're dealing with kids, and you're dealing with their parents, and just a whole different language and a whole different culture there.
Was he your head coach for?
No.
When was he there? You just were around him?
No, so he was here going into COVID year. The first year was there.
That was it. Okay, you were out by then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Who's your next team?
We got a Minnesota.
Minnesota.
The
Okay.
Golden Gophers.
Golden Gophers.
Yeah.
Tell me about them.
Yeah, there's not too much to really talk about. Not gonna lie to you. They were 110th last year in points per game, 125th in yards per game, 126th in passing yards per game, and 66th in rushing yards per game. So
we're talking about Iowa or Minnesota?
We're talking about Minnesota.
Sounds like Iowa.
Yeah, Iowa's offense
even worse.
But the difference between Minnesota and Iowa is Iowa has a very tough defense. So
yeah, very good defense. Yeah,
Minnesota's got to have a they're going to be up a creek without a paddle. Head coach PJ Fleck. Hopefully, he can cement his place in the Big Ten this year, because right now it's not looking too hot. Through 7 seasons, he's 50-34, which some will say it's not too bad, but
he was good a few years ago, and then it kind of fell off a cliff.
Yeah, fell off a cliff last year, big dog. And 5-7 finish to the regular season. That's not going to work out. No. But they have some guys that they have some guys coming in. They have some guys coming in and out. Transfers in was 13. Transfers out was 13. Brought in some guys in the transfer class, some pass rushing, which hopefully, that can be utilized once again. You can have all the pass rushing all you want, but if you're not scoring any points to put any pressure on a team to go down and score, your pass rushers are going to be on the sideline. Georgia wide receiver Tyler Williams and New Hampshire quarterback Max Brosmer. I think, this is another team that if they win 5 games, like the school's probably throwing parties.
I'm
and
very
that's my
intrigued to see.
and that's my opinion. But I think they're probably going to be a 4-8 team next year.
Yeah, I think that's probably where they are. They're one of the teams that's, I don't know where their path forward is because PJ Fleck, a few years ago, he was, one of the hotter names in the coaching carousel after the year. And I felt like he could have gone anywhere. I think am I crazy to say that when Oregon hired Cristobal, some people were talking about Fleck as a potential candidate for the Oregon job. That seems like so long ago that he was considered for that. But I'm really intrigued to see Max Brosmer because he was one of those. He's a classic example of like the FCS quarterback who had a ton of success and has talent, arm talent at that level and put up a lot of numbers there. What can you do in the Big Ten? What can you do in this level of competition? I'm very curious to see it.
They're going to need something because, this is a team that's going to have to score points. I'm telling you, they have, with their defensive coordinator departed last year after a great, strong tenure. I mean, they were strong on defense. Just offensively, they couldn't put nothing together. Couldn't put on their pants. Losing 4 defensive players to the draft the last 2 seasons. So that's pretty much their claim to stardom or claim to fame right now.
Yeah.
What's the score of the Oregon game right now?
I just looked. It is 65-0 into the third quarter. The Oregon just scored
Jesus Christ. Are they playing like a
I don't know.
This like a Division 3 team or something?
It's fun to watch though. It's funny. It's like I didn't realize how much I missed football until I was just like sitting back last night.
You're sitting there watching a simulation game on this.
Loving it. I'm just like, God, this is fun, man. I miss football. Can't wait for it to be back.
Right.
All right. We're gonna keep this one short as well, much like your Minnesota one, and then we'll get to my better one at the end. I've got 2 more. Illinois. They're one of those teams at the bottom of the Big Ten. They had a few solid additions. I was actually really shocked to see that they got Zachary Franklin, former UTSA wide receiver. He spent a year at Ole Miss last year, but was injured for most of it. He was a really good player. He played under Will Stein at UTSA. I remember when he went to the transfer portal, a lot of Duck fans were like, oh, maybe we can get him. And he, for some reason, went to Illinois. I don't really know why, but they got cornerback Terrence Brooks from Texas, tight end Cole Rusk from Murray State. So they got a few solid players. They lost a couple of solid offensive pieces in wide receiver Isaiah Williams and running back Reggie Love III. They're a team that has, one of like the classic mediocre quarterbacks that's good enough to keep his job, but not good enough to take you anywhere. That's Luke Altmaier. They've got a very solid wide receiver in Malik Elzy. I Bleav I'm pronouncing that correctly. But again, they're, like Minnesota, they're one of the teams that's just trying to fight to not be last in the Big Ten. You're not really, you're probably not going to be bowl eligible. Their win totals, their over-under set at 5.5. Got tough games against Kansas, Penn State, Michigan, Oregon, and Rutgers. They should be able to beat teams like Eastern Illinois and Central Michigan, but then you get like Purdue, Minnesota, Northwestern, Michigan State. Can you beat those teams? Then you might become bowl eligible. If not, it could be a long year. So
the answer is no, they can't.
Probably not. Yeah. If I were to bet, they are not going to be bowl eligible this year. They would need a lot of things to bounce their way, but they have not, given you any reason to believe as of late that they can be one of those teams. So, Any questions on Illinois before we move on?
Nah, man, I'm tired of talking about that.
Yeah, we're good. Let's talk about Michigan State because Michigan State is actually interesting. Starting with additions, I mean, this is a team that had a lot of roster turnover because they had a head coaching change. Former Oregon State head coach Jonathan Smith left the Beavers, his alma mater, to take over at Michigan State. He brought with him quarterback Aiden Childs and tight end Jack Velling. Childs in particular, very, very intriguing player. He was, he was a top 100 recruit in the class of 2024, 2023. I forget. He was a true freshman last year, but showed a lot of promise. I mean, they rotated him a little bit with DJ Uyunglele last year, and he was very solid. He's going to be the guy now at Michigan State, and he's someone who can be the ceiling is very high for him. I think he can be an NFL quarterback. So I'm just very intrigued to see what he can do in that system with Jonathan Smith this year.
Yeah.
They also added former Oregon defensive lineman Ben Roberts, who had a really good spring game in Eugene before he decided to transfer, as well as Old Dominion linebacker Wayne Matthews. They lost defensive lineman Derek Harmon to Oregon, who I know Duck fans were very excited to get. He was a big name in the transfer portal. They also have, same as Illinois. We were very dismissive of Illinois, but they also have the same win total as 5.5. So it's not like they're projected to be one of the best teams in the Big Ten. They've got a really easy non-conference schedule, but they have a brutal stretch of games from the end of September through October. They play Ohio State, then Oregon, then Iowa, and then Michigan all in a row. There's a bye week in the middle there somewhere, but
I will say,
tough 4 games.
I will say, within those 4 games, there lies a potential trap game
for them or for the team playing them.
For the team playing them.
Okay, yeah, I could see that.
Hopefully, we do not want it to be Oregon.
Nah, it won't be.
But it could be a potential trap game because it could be one of those things where they're getting their heads knocked in, and then all of a sudden they just say, you know what? We're going to get our heads knocked in. We might as well go out there and punch them in the mouth too.
I Bleav Oregon hosts Michigan State, then they have a bye week, and then they have Ohio State. So I think that Oregon should be safe when it comes to that trap game narrative against Michigan State. Yeah.
Dan.
Yeah, he'll have Oregon right. For bowl projections, I do see 6 wins on their schedule. I think they can make a bowl game. I don't see maybe 7 wins, but I think they should be bowl eligible. But same with Nebraska. I think the goal is a bowl, but more importantly, just show the promise. Give fans a reason to believe that you made a right coaching hire, that you've got your quarterback of the future in Aiden Childs. Just like we talked about with Indiana last week too, or 2 weeks ago. Just show that you're going somewhere, that you may not be good this year, but in the Big Ten, show them that you have a place in this conference going forward. There's not really a path to the playoff this year, but in 3 years, maybe show me it's possible.
Yeah. I like it.
That's all I have on Michigan State.
Out of all the teams we just talked about, who has the best chance of getting 6 wins
this year?
Yeah.
God, yeah, we did pick some bad teams for this week, didn't we? We'll be better next week.
I'm going to go with UCLA.
You would say UCLA, huh? Just because of the experienced quarterback?
Just because the experienced quarterback, he had a bowl game where he was the MVP, and you have an offensive coordinator coming in that is of elite caliber, and that has to boost someone's self-esteem on the offensive side of the ball for UCLA.
I would say Nebraska. I don't disagree with your UCLA pick. I just think that I'm very high on Dylan Raiola. I watched their spring game. I made a point to watch their spring game this year because of him. I wanted to see him. I wanted to see Dante Dowdell and just see what it looked like. He can sling the rock, man. He looks like a very good quarterback. Obviously, it's a spring game. You're supposed to look good. They're going to put you in position to look good. I just, there's a chance that he's the real deal. And that could mean that they win 6 or 7 games this year. But if we look at, UCLA, who can't win 6 games this year? Illinois? No. Minnesota? No.
Nah.
Michigan State? Maybe. Yeah, maybe. Nebraska? I think they absolutely can. UCLA? I think they absolutely can. So it's, we'll see. I think that UCLA and Michigan and Nebraska are probably the best 2 bets, though.
Mhm.
All
Okay.
right. You got anything else before we need to get out of here?
No, man. Just thank you, Uncle Phil.
Oh, Uncle Phil shout out. Have you seen this? You want to talk about that real quick? Have you seen this this narrative about Oregon and NIL money, unlimited NIL money?
Man, listen, sky's the limit if you come to Oregon. That's all I gotta say.
It's true. That's true. I just love that a story of like Rick Neuheisel, a much maligned coach in the Pac-12 history, went on his radio show and was like, Oregon gets anything they want from Nike because Phil's getting old and he wants a championship. And then everybody ran with the story as if he's like some trusted source. It's like, okay,
No, man, that's not how this world works, first of all.
no, I
But
agree.
we will take the publicity and thank you, dog.
Yeah. If you want unlimited NIL money, come to Oregon.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
See how
whatever
that
that
tastes when
whatever
the championship's here.
yeah, whatever that sounds like.
Absolutely. All right, that's gonna do it for us today. Thank you for tuning in. Again, go subscribe to the show, rate, review, all that stuff. Help us grow our audience. We'll be back next week for our final Big Ten show and tell to close things out. And then before you know it, the actual season will be here. I will get to stop watching these simulated games, watch real games. Update: it is currently 73-0 midway through the 4th quarter.
Do we have any stats? Like who's just going off right
You know
now?
what? Yeah. Let's pause and see what's going on here. Also, if you want to see like in-depth breakdowns of these games, go to duckswire.usatoday.com. That's why I'm doing this. I'm not just like some psychopath who's watching simulated games during the middle of my day. Dylan Gabriel is 23 for 28, 6 touchdowns, no interceptions. It's pretty good. Evan Stewart, 7 receptions, 224 yards, 3 touchdowns. There it is.
Bad man. All right, Evan Stewart. We're looking forward to it, baby.
Looking good. There you go. All right. You can check out more of my work at duckswire.usatoday.com. Follow me at Zachary C. Neel on Twitter. Follow Jay Stu on Twitter at Jonathan Stewar1. Make sure to check out the Bleav in Panthers podcast for myself, Zach Neel. For my co-host, Jonathan Stewart, we will talk to you guys next week. Until then, take it easy.
Go Ducks.